Ethan had always been a man of logic, someone who found comfort in schedules, numbers, and the rhythm of city life. Yet despite his career as a successful engineer, he felt a persistent emptiness gnawing at him. The noise of the streets, the endless chatter, and the glare of neon lights no longer brought him joy. He longed for quiet, for a place where he could think, breathe, and feel alive again. That longing led him to search for something most people would dismiss: a cabin in the woods. It took him months of scrolling through listings, traveling on winding country roads and visiting remote properties that had long been abandoned. Each cabin he considered had something wrong: a leaking roof, a broken foundation, or a history of strange rumors. Just when he was beginning to lose hope, he stumbled upon a listing that made him stop. It was small, modest, and far away from the nearest town. A cabin nestled deep in the forest, hidden from view, with tall pines surrounding it like silent guardians. The picture showed a quaint wooden structure, weathered but sturdy. The porch looked perfect for mornings spent with coffee, watching the sunlight pierce through the trees. Even the windows seemed to glow with a welcoming warmth. But it was the cellar door, small and locked with a heavy iron latch, that drew Ethan's curiosity the most. Something about it seemed important. Something about it whispered that the cabin had secrets, and secrets were his weakness. Ethan made the call immediately and arranged to buy the property. The process was quick. The previous owner was eager to sell, claiming that he had felt unwelcome in the cabin for years, though he couldn't explain why. Ethan didn't mind the mystery. In fact, he relished it. To him, mystery meant adventure, and adventure meant life. When Ethan finally arrived at the cabin, it was a crisp autumn afternoon. The sky was painted in streaks of orange and gold, and a soft breeze carried the scent of pine and damp earth. The cabin appeared just as it had in the photographs, but in person, it felt alive in a way pictures could not capture. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of wind through the trees seemed to speak to him. He set down his bag and walked around the cabin, inspecting the walls and the roof. He noticed details that spoke of time and care: carved patterns in the wood, a stone pathway that had been smoothed by decades of footsteps, and the faint hum of the forest all around him. It was peaceful, almost too peaceful, and Ethan felt a shiver of excitement. That evening, after unpacking, he prepared a simple dinner on the small stove. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest around him darkened and shadows grew long and strange. Ethan ate quietly, listening to the faint rustling outside, the occasional snap of a twig. He tried to shake off a creeping sense of unease. The cabin was old, he reminded himself, and old places always had noises. After dinner, curiosity overcame him. He approached the cellar door. The iron latch was cold to the touch, and it didn't budge. Strange symbols were carved into the wood around it. Patterns he didn't recognize, almost geometric but uneven, as if made by hand with care. Ethan ran his fingers over them, feeling a vibration in the wood, subtle but undeniable. He stepped back and shook his head. "Tomorrow," he whispered to himself. "Tomorrow I'll see what's down there." He tried to focus on other things. He lit a fire in the small fireplace and settled into a chair with a book. But even as he read, his mind wandered back to the cellar. There was something there, he could feel it. Something that didn't belong to this world, or maybe something that had once belonged and had been forgotten. The thought excited him and frightened him at the same time. Night fell fully, and the forest outside seemed to hold its breath. The usual sounds of nocturnal life, the hoot of an owl, the rustle of leaves, were joined by something softer, almost musical. A faint humming, low and steady, coming from below the floorboards. Ethan froze, listening. His heart beat faster. He checked the cellar door again. It was still locked, unyielding. He shook his head and tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was just the wind. Maybe it was an animal trapped in a hollow log under the floor. But deep down he knew this was something else. Something waiting. Something that had been waiting a long time. Sleep came fitfully. Ethan dreamed of the cabin transforming, the walls stretching into vast corridors filled with glowing lights. Strange shapes moved in the shadows, and he felt eyes upon him, observing, judging. He woke several times, each time hearing the faint hum more clearly. The forest outside seemed to lean closer, pressing in on him with an almost tangible presence. Morning light brought clarity, but not relief. Ethan brewed coffee and stepped outside, hoping the sun would wash away the tension. The forest was calm again, serene. Birds sang and the breeze was gentle. Yet the symbols on the cellar door seemed to glimmer in the morning light as if alive. He ran his fingers over them once more, and this time a spark of energy traveled through his fingertips, quick and startling. He decided to explore the surrounding woods before dealing with the cellar. As he walked among the trees, he noticed things he hadn't seen before. Patterns in the moss that resembled the symbols on the cellar door, rocks arranged in circles, small clearings that seemed too deliberate to be natural. It was as if the forest itself had a hidden structure, a rhythm that Ethan could almost understand if he paid close enough attention. Hours passed, and Ethan returned to the cabin with a growing sense of wonder. He realized that this place was more than a simple retreat. It was a nexus, a place where something powerful had occurred long ago, or perhaps was still occurring. The thought thrilled him. This was why he had come here, why he had left the city and all its distractions. He was meant to find this, to discover it, to be part of it. That night, Ethan lit the fireplace again and sat in quiet contemplation. The humming returned, stronger now, almost beckoning him. He resisted the urge to rush down into the cellar, though his curiosity screamed at him to act. Instead, he wrote notes in a journal he had brought with him. Observations, feelings, strange coincidences. Every detail might matter, he thought. Every observation could be a clue. As he wrote, the wind outside picked up, rattling the cabin and making the shadows dance on the walls. Ethan paused, listening. The humming seemed to harmonize with the wind, creating a melody that was both unsettling and beautiful. For the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly alive, not just awake, but aware of the vastness and mystery of the world around him. Before sleep, he stood by the cellar door one last time. He placed his hand on the iron latch, feeling its weight and texture. "Soon," he whispered, a mix of excitement and fear in his voice. He didn't know what lay beneath, but he knew that once he opened that door, nothing in his life would ever be the same. Ethan finally lay down, the hum fading into the background as his eyelids grew heavy. But even as he drifted into sleep, a part of his mind stayed alert, listening, waiting, and wondering. Something was down there, something extraordinary, and he was ready to discover it. The morning sunlight streamed through the cabin windows, casting long, warm streaks across the wooden floor. Ethan awoke slowly, feeling a mix of excitement and unease from the previous night. The memory of the humming beneath the floorboards lingered, like a soft echo that refused to fade. He dressed quickly, brewed coffee, and stepped outside to clear his mind. The forest seemed alive in ways he hadn't noticed before. Birds flitted between the trees, but their movements were unusual, jerky, almost as if they were avoiding certain spots. Squirrels paused mid-leap, ears twitching as if listening to a sound humans could not hear. The wind whispered through the trees in a rhythm that was almost musical, carrying with it the faint scent of pine and damp earth. Ethan wandered along a narrow trail behind the cabin, taking note of every detail. Moss-covered rocks formed odd patterns. Small clearings appeared almost like stages, and fallen branches seemed deliberately arranged. It was subtle, but the forest had a hidden order, one that was not natural. He paused to examine a circle of stones and noticed the symbols carved into the cellar door mirrored these patterns. A shiver ran down his spine. Whatever had left those symbols was connected to the forest itself. As he made his way back to the cabin, he spotted movement through the trees. A woman was approaching, cautious but purposeful. Ethan stepped forward, raising a hand in greeting. "Hi," she said. Her name was Mara. She was a local hiker, familiar with the woods and the cabin's history. "I saw you arrive yesterday," she continued. "I wanted to see who had taken over the old place." Ethan smiled politely. "I just bought it. I'm looking for some peace and quiet." Mara nodded, her eyes lingering on the cabin. "You're brave. People say this place. Well, people avoid it. Strange things have happened here for decades. Lights in the forest, odd sounds at night, people disappearing for hours." She hesitated, glancing around as if the forest itself might overhear. "No one can explain it." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Disappear? Like lost?" "Not exactly. They go missing for a while and then come back, shaken, claiming they saw things they can't explain. I never believed the stories myself until a few weeks ago. Something in these woods. It's not normal." Ethan considered her words. The humming, the symbols, the odd patterns. He had noticed them too. Yet instead of fear, he felt a growing sense of curiosity. Thanks for the warning. I'll keep that in mind. Mara lingered for a moment, studying him carefully. Just be careful. The forest has a way of testing people. Some never return the same. She turned and walked back into the trees, leaving Ethan to ponder her warning. The rest of the day was spent unpacking and organizing the cabin. Ethan tried to focus on practical tasks, but his mind kept drifting back to the cellar door. Every time he passed it, the symbols seemed to glimmer faintly, almost like they were aware of him. He couldn't shake the feeling that something below was waiting for him, patient and watchful. Night fell quickly, the forest darkening into deep shades of green and black. Ethan lit the fireplace, trying to push away the unease. The humming returned, soft at first, then gradually growing louder. It was accompanied by another sound this time, a faint tapping like small objects shifting on a metal surface. Ethan's curiosity overpowered his fear. He moved closer to the cellar door, kneeling to examine it more closely. The carvings were intricate, unlike anything he had seen before. As he traced them with his fingers, the vibration he had felt the night before returned, stronger and more insistent. It was almost as if the cellar itself was alive, responding to his touch. He decided he could no longer wait. Ethan fetched his tools, a crowbar, a flashlight, and some gloves, and began to pry open the heavy iron latch. The metal resisted at first, groaning under the strain, but eventually, with a sudden click, it gave way. A rush of cold air escaped, carrying a faint metallic scent that made his nose tingle. The stairs leading down were steep and narrow, carved from old wood that creaked under his weight. He shone the flashlight ahead, revealing a dimly lit space below. It was larger than he expected, almost like a hidden room carved into the earth itself. The walls were lined with strange devices, glowing panels, wires that pulsed with light, and machines that hummed softly. At the center of the room was something that made Ethan stop in his tracks. Suspended in a transparent chamber was a crystalline life form, shimmering with colors that seemed to shift and move as if alive. Its shape was vaguely humanoid, yet unlike any creature he had ever seen. It emitted a soft glow, illuminating the room with an otherworldly light. Ethan's first instinct was fear, but it was quickly replaced by awe. The being stirred as he approached, responding to his presence. Then, without warning, he felt a voice in his mind. It was clear, calm, and almost gentle. "Do not be afraid," it said. "I have been here a long time. You are the first human to find me who is ready to understand." Ethan staggered back, clutching the railing. Telepathy, he realized, with a mix of terror and wonder, that this being was communicating directly into his mind. I don't understand," he whispered aloud, though he knew it could hear him. "You are human," the voice replied. "Curious, brave, capable. These qualities are rare. I have watched your species for centuries, learning, observing. Now it is time for interaction." Ethan's mind raced. Questions tumbled through his thoughts faster than he could speak. What is it? Where did it come from? Why is it here? How is it alive? Yet amidst the fear, a spark of excitement grew. This was beyond anything he had imagined, beyond any technology, beyond any mystery he had ever encountered. The crystalline being shimmered brighter, as if sensing his thoughts. "I will teach you," it continued. "But you must promise to be careful. What I offer can change your world and your species forever. Misuse it and the consequences are grave." Ethan nodded almost instinctively, though he didn't fully understand. "I promise," he said. His voice was steady, but his heart raced. He had never been in a situation like this before. He had never faced something so extraordinary. Days passed in a blur. Ethan worked with the being, learning to understand its language of light and energy, experimenting with small devices, and exploring concepts that stretched the limits of human knowledge. Every night he would return to the cabin's upper rooms, sleep fitfully, and dream of patterns, colors, and possibilities he could not fully grasp. The forest outside seemed to respond to his presence. Trees leaned subtly toward the cabin, animals ventured closer, and the hum that had first drawn him in now felt like a gentle guide. Ethan began to understand that the cabin, the forest, and the crystalline being were connected in ways beyond his comprehension. One evening, Mara returned. She had been curious and concerned, sensing that something extraordinary was happening. Ethan hesitated but decided to trust her. He led her to the cabin, carefully keeping the crystalline being hidden. "What is going on here?" she asked, eyes wide with a mix of fear and fascination. "Something I can't explain yet," Ethan admitted, "but I think it's trying to help us. Help humans." Mara studied him for a moment and then nodded slowly. "I believe you. Whatever this is, it feels alive, and it's waiting for someone who can understand it." Together they watched the forest, the cabin, and the hidden room below. The hum continued, a soft melody that seemed to promise knowledge, wonder, and change. Ethan felt a thrill unlike anything he had experienced in his structured city life. For the first time, he understood that the world was bigger, stranger, and more extraordinary than he had ever imagined. The night deepened, the forest holding its breath, and Ethan realized that his life had changed forever. The cabin was no longer just a retreat. It was a gateway, and whatever lay beneath the floorboards would shape not only his destiny, but perhaps the destiny of humanity itself. Ethan could hardly sleep that night. The crystalline being which he had begun to call Leora in his mind continued to shimmer and pulse with soft light below the cabin. Even though he was far above in the main room, he felt her presence, gentle and insistent like a heartbeat in the earth itself. The hum that had first drawn him here now resonated more clearly, a rhythm that seemed to echo his own thoughts and emotions. The next morning, Ethan approached the cellar door with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. He had spent hours thinking about Leora, wondering what she could be, where she had come from, and why she was here. He also realized that he had questions no human could answer, questions that demanded exploration and careful study. As he descended the stairs, the air grew cooler, carrying the metallic, almost sweet scent that had first greeted him. Leora's glow illuminated the room in shifting colors, soft blues, purples, and greens, that reflected off the panels and wires scattered across the floor. Ethan's eyes widened. Every device seemed alive, as if connected to her energy, humming in harmony with the room. "You are ready to learn," Leora said, her voice calm in his mind. "But first you must understand purpose. The technology you see here is not meant for convenience. It is meant for protection, for discovery, and for growth. Misuse it, and consequences will follow far beyond your understanding." Ethan nodded. "I understand," he replied. "I want to learn. I want to help." "Good," Leora said. "Then we begin." The first days were challenging. Leora communicated through flashes of light and thought, teaching Ethan to interpret the pulses and patterns of energy flowing through the devices. At first, it was overwhelming. The concepts were unlike anything he had studied in engineering, physics, or computer science. Yet Ethan's mind adapted quickly. His curiosity and persistence allowed him to see patterns, to predict responses, and even to make small modifications under Leora's guidance. One day, he accidentally activated a small device that sent a beam of light into the forest outside. The beam hovered above the trees, scanning the ground and reflecting off the leaves. To Ethan's amazement, he saw the forest differently. Every living thing seemed connected by faint trails of energy, like a web of life glowing in soft colors. He realized that Leora had been influencing the forest all along, subtly guiding growth, protecting creatures, and maintaining balance. "You see now?" Leora said, sensing his awe. "Life is a network. Energy flows through everything. Humans have the ability to perceive it, but few have the patience or awareness to notice. You are beginning to understand." Ethan spent hours exploring this new understanding, learning to map energy flows, and even manipulate small amounts to encourage growth or protect wildlife. The feeling was exhilarating. For the first time, he understood that humans, with their ingenuity and adaptability, could be partners in the stewardship of life itself. But the deeper he delved, the more he realized that there were limits. Leora's technology was vast, far beyond what he could comprehend fully. Each device had multiple layers of function, and even a small mistake could trigger unpredictable consequences. One night, while experimenting with a panel of glowing buttons, a surge of energy lit up the room. Ethan stumbled back, narrowly avoiding being knocked to the floor. Leora's voice calmed him. "Patience," she said. "You will learn. Knowledge grows in layers, not all at once. Observe, think, then act. Curiosity is a gift, but recklessness can destroy." Ethan understood. From that moment, he approached each experiment carefully, documenting every observation, every reaction, and every result. His journal filled with sketches, notes, and calculations. The cabin became a laboratory of discovery, and Ethan's life became a delicate balance of learning, observing, and respecting the unknown. Despite his progress, a sense of loneliness lingered. The forest was beautiful, the technology fascinating, but he longed for connection with another human. One afternoon, Mara returned, her curiosity stronger than caution. Ethan led her to the cabin but stopped short of showing her Leora. Instead, he demonstrated the forest mapping device he had been working on. Mara's eyes widened as streams of glowing energy appeared in the air above the trees, tracing the connections of life. "It's incredible," she whispered. "It's like the forest is alive in a way I've never imagined." Ethan nodded. "There's more," he said quietly. "But I can't show you yet. Not until I understand it fully myself. It's complicated." Mara understood, though a part of her was disappointed. She stayed for hours, helping Ethan document patterns in the forest and observing the subtle ways his experiments affected wildlife. Birds returned to areas they had avoided. Small plants grew faster and the forest seemed healthier, almost vibrant. As the days passed, Ethan began to feel a bond with Leora, as if she were both teacher and companion. She was patient, guiding him through complex tasks yet never revealing everything at once. He sensed her intelligence was vast, ancient even, and yet she seemed genuinely curious about him as well. "You are capable of more than you realize," Leora said one evening. "Humans have potential that even I did not expect. Courage, empathy, and creativity. These qualities make you adaptable and strong. I have observed, but I did not fully appreciate your kind until now." Ethan felt a swell of pride. "Thank you," he said, though he realized words were inadequate. There was a depth to Leora's awareness that words could not reach. One night, while documenting energy flows, Ethan noticed something unusual. A faint disturbance appeared at the edge of the forest, a ripple of energy that did not match the normal patterns of life. He froze. The forest had always been predictable under Leora's guidance, but this anomaly was different. "Do you see it?" he asked Leora in his mind. "Yes," she replied. "It is a visitor. Someone or something has entered the forest. Observe but do not intervene. Understanding comes before action." Ethan watched as a shadow moved between the trees. It was humanoid, but its energy signature was strange, unfamiliar. His pulse quickened. Could it be another human, or something else entirely? He knew that this encounter might change everything. Mara, who had stayed at the cabin, noticed his tension. "What is it?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "Something unusual. I don't know what yet." They watched together as the figure moved closer, stopping just beyond the clearing. Ethan could feel its presence in his mind, a faint but deliberate probing. Leora's glow pulsed gently, a calming signal reminding him to remain cautious. The figure eventually retreated, disappearing into the forest without incident. Ethan exhaled, realizing that the forest, Leora, and the technology were more complex and interconnected than he had imagined. That night, Ethan lay awake, reflecting on everything he had learned. Leora had opened his mind to possibilities he had never considered. The forest was alive in ways humans had never understood, and now a new element had entered the balance, something unknown, something that could bring danger or revelation. But despite the uncertainty, Ethan felt a thrill. This was why he had left the city, why he had sought solitude. He was part of something extraordinary, a hidden world of intelligence, life, and potential. He understood that his life would never return to the ordinary, and he welcomed it. As he drifted to sleep, he thought of the cellar door, the crystalline being, and the mysterious figure in the forest. Tomorrow promised discovery, and the promise of discovery was more intoxicating than any city skyline or human comfort. He was no longer alone. He had purpose, and purpose drove him forward. Ethan awoke to the soft glow of Leora's light filtering through the cabin floor. The forest outside was calm yet vibrant, as though it had been waiting for him to rise. He had grown used to this glow, yet each morning it seemed to pulse with fresh energy, reminding him that he was part of something much larger than himself. He descended into the cellar, careful to move slowly on the creaking stairs. Leora shimmered gently in her chamber, the colors of her crystal form shifting through blues, purples, and greens. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest, a connection that was hard to explain. "Good morning," he said softly. "I'm ready to continue today." "You are prepared," Leora replied in his mind. "Today you will learn to influence the forest more directly. But you must remember your choices carry weight. Each action, no matter how small, affects the balance of life. Ethan nodded, determination settling into his mind. Over the past weeks, he had learned to observe the energy flows of the forest, mapping connections and subtly guiding growth. Yet this day would challenge him further. Leora led him to a device unlike any other. It was a small console with glowing nodes, each representing a portion of the forest energy network. Focus, Leora instructed. You will use this device to influence the forest in real time. Watch for reactions. Adjust but do not force. The forest teaches patience. Ethan placed his hands on the console, feeling the hum of energy flow into him. It was like nothing he had ever experienced, electric yet organic, precise yet alive. He followed Leora's instructions, nudging energy toward a section of the forest where a patch of young trees had struggled to grow. Slowly he saw subtle changes. Leaves grew larger, branches stretched toward sunlight, and small animals returned to the area. He smiled, feeling a rush of accomplishment. It works, he whispered. Yes, Leora said. But now you must test your judgment. Influence is power. Power without understanding can cause harm. Ethan spent hours experimenting, guiding streams of energy to nurture wildlife, balance water flow, and encourage plant growth. Mara visited again, and this time he decided to show her more. Carefully, he explained the principles of energy flow without revealing Leora fully. Mara watched, fascinated, as the forest responded to his actions. This is incredible, Mara said, her eyes wide. I've never seen anything like it. You're not just observing, you're helping everything thrive. Ethan nodded. It's more than just technology. It's understanding life itself. Leora has shown me that humans can do more than we realize, if we pay attention and act wisely. As evening approached, Leora instructed Ethan to focus on a small clearing at the edge of the forest. Here, she said, an imbalance exists. Correct it carefully. Ethan approached the console, feeling the familiar flow of energy beneath his fingers. As he worked, he realized that some energy threads were unstable, fraying at the edges. He hesitated. A wrong adjustment could harm the delicate ecosystem. His mind raced through possible solutions, balancing risk and potential benefit. Trust yourself, Leora encouraged. Your insight is your strength. He took a deep breath and made a careful adjustment, channeling energy to reinforce the frayed threads. Slowly, the clearing stabilized. Flowers bloomed, the air seemed fresher, and small animals emerged from hiding. Ethan felt a surge of pride. He had not only learned, he had succeeded. Mara watched him, a mixture of awe and admiration in her eyes. You're like a guardian of the forest, she said softly. Ethan smiled. I never imagined I could do something like this. It's more than I ever hoped for. That night, the forest hummed gently, a soft symphony of life and energy. Ethan reflected on everything he had learned. Leora's lessons had not only taught him to manipulate energy, but had also shown him the importance of responsibility, patience, and respect. He realized that the cabin, the forest, and the crystalline being were all connected, forming a system that balanced intelligence, instinct, and growth. But the peace was not to last. The next morning, as Ethan inspected the forest edges, he noticed subtle signs of disturbance. Some energy flows were weaker, as if someone or something had tampered with them. A feeling of unease crept into his mind. The forest, which had been predictable under his guidance, now seemed uncertain, anxious. Mara, Ethan said, pointing toward the edge of the clearing. Look at this. Something has changed. Mara stepped closer, frowning. It's like someone was here affecting the energy. But who and why? Ethan's pulse quickened. I don't know, but we need to be careful. The forest is sensitive. Any mistake could have serious consequences. He descended into the cellar that evening, determined to consult Leora. The crystalline being shimmered, sensing his concern. You have observed correctly, she said. An unknown presence has entered the forest. I cannot determine its intent yet. You must remain vigilant. Ethan felt the weight of responsibility settle over him. He had learned to guide and protect, but now he faced uncertainty. Mara joined him, watching the glowing chambers and panels with growing curiosity. Ethan debated how much to reveal, deciding to share the basics without exposing Leora fully. We need to understand this presence, Ethan said. If it's harmful, we have to stop it. If it's curious, we may be able to guide it safely. Mara nodded. Whatever it is, we're in this together. The forest, you, me, we're all connected now. The next days were filled with careful observation. Ethan monitored energy flows, marking any anomalies and adjusting subtly to prevent damage. The mysterious presence appeared sporadically, always at the edge of the forest, never fully entering. Its energy signature was unfamiliar, slightly chaotic, but not immediately hostile. One night, Ethan had a breakthrough. By analyzing the patterns, he realized that the presence was intelligent, perhaps another being trying to communicate. Excitement and apprehension mixed in his chest. This could be a friend, an explorer, or something entirely unknown. "Mara, I think it's trying to reach us," he said. "I need to find a way to communicate safely." With Leora's guidance, Ethan devised a simple signal using light pulses, mirroring the patterns he had learned from her. He projected the signal toward the edge of the forest, careful to maintain a calm, steady rhythm. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the presence responded, sending back pulses of energy that formed simple patterns. Ethan's heart raced. "It's working," he whispered. Mara watched, her eyes shining. "You're communicating with it?" "Yes," Ethan said, astonished. "It's intelligent. We can understand it if we're careful." The next few nights were spent refining the communication. The being's pulses became more organized, forming patterns that Ethan could recognize and interpret. He realized that it was curious, seeking to learn about the forest, about the energy, and perhaps about him. Through this interaction, Ethan felt a deeper bond with Leora and the forest. He was no longer just an observer. He was a participant, a guardian, and now a communicator with an unknown intelligence. The cabin, once a place of solitude, had become a center of learning, discovery, and responsibility. By the end of the week, Ethan and Mara had established a careful rhythm of observation and communication. The forest responded positively to their guidance, and the mysterious presence seemed more comfortable, less chaotic. Ethan realized that his actions were teaching both humans and the unknown being about balance, patience, and understanding. As he lay in bed that night, listening to the hum of the forest and the gentle pulse of Leora's energy, Ethan felt a profound sense of purpose. The world he had known, the city, the routines, the predictable life, was gone. In its place was a new reality, one full of potential, wonder, and responsibility. He knew the coming days would test him further. Challenges would arise, difficult choices would need to be made, and the unknown presence might bring unexpected consequences. Yet he was ready. He had learned patience, empathy, and control. He had learned to trust himself, and he had learned that humans were capable of far more than he had ever imagined. The cabin in the woods was no longer just a retreat. It was a gateway to discovery, a laboratory of life, and a place where humans and unknown intelligences could learn from each other. Ethan smiled, feeling the pulse of the forest, the guidance of Leora, and the presence of the mysterious being. Tomorrow, he knew, would bring new lessons, new challenges, and perhaps new revelations. But he welcomed them. He had found purpose, wonder, and connection in a place most would never dare to explore. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in his life, Ethan felt truly ready to face it. Ethan awoke with a sense of purpose stronger than ever. The forest outside the cabin seemed to pulse with life, responding to his presence as if aware of the work he had done. Leora's glow below the floorboards had grown brighter, more vibrant, almost as if she too felt anticipation. Today, he knew, would bring answers he had long sought. He descended into the cellar early, careful on the creaking stairs. The crystalline being shimmered gently in her chamber, her colors shifting in patterns Ethan had come to understand as emotion. He reached out a hand, feeling a subtle vibration in the air, a silent acknowledgement of his dedication and growth. "Today," Leora said in his mind, "you will understand your role fully. The forest, the energy flows, and the unknown presence all are connected. Your choices have shaped balance, but there is more. You are ready for revelation." Ethan felt a mixture of excitement and nervousness. He had learned much, how to map energy flows, guide life, and communicate with an intelligence beyond human understanding. But he knew the culmination of this journey would be extraordinary. He approached the console Leora had guided him to use in recent days. This time, the device was larger, with multiple panels and nodes that represented not only the forest but the surrounding ecosystem, the sky, and even subtle energy flows underground. Ethan realized that the network was far more complex than he had imagined, linking life in ways humans had never observed. "You have learned to guide and protect," Leora continued. "Now you must see, the unknown presence is not alone. It is a sentinel, a guardian placed long ago to protect this forest and others like it. You have earned the right to understand its purpose fully." Ethan took a deep breath and activated the device. Streams of light and energy flowed through the panels, and the cellar filled with a soft, harmonious hum. The energy patterns began to shift and reorganize, revealing the sentinel and its history. He saw images, not with his eyes, but in his mind. The forest centuries ago, the arrival of Leora, and the sentinel's task of maintaining balance and protecting knowledge. The realization struck him. The cabin, the forest, Leora, and the sentinel were all part of a system far older than humans. This place had been carefully tended for generations, waiting for someone capable of understanding and maintaining its balance. And now that responsibility rested on him. Mara entered the cellar quietly, her eyes wide with awe. "Ethan, what are we seeing?" Ethan turned to her, struggling to put the experience into words. "It's everything. The forest, this cabin, Leora, and the presence, they're part of a network. A guardian system, and it seems we were meant to find it, me at least." Mara's gaze shifted to Leora, who pulsed softly in response. "It's alive," Mara whispered. "All of it. The forest, the cabin, the energy." "Yes," Ethan said, voice steady despite the overwhelming sight. "And it's been waiting for someone who can understand, guide, and protect it. That someone is now me, or us. Together we can help it." Leora's voice filled his mind again, gentle but firm. "You have learned to respect balance, to observe, and to act with care. The unknown presence is not hostile, it is an ally. But you must continue to exercise judgment. Knowledge is powerful, and power without understanding can destroy." Ethan nodded. He realized that his work was far from over. This was not just about curiosity or discovery, it was about stewardship. He had been entrusted with protecting a system older and more complex than humanity had ever known. Over the next several days, Ethan and Mara worked tirelessly, guided by Leora. They mapped deeper energy flows, reinforced weak areas in the forest, and continued to communicate with the sentinel. The forest responded in kind, becoming more vibrant and alive with each passing day. At night, the cabin glowed softly as the energy pulses flowed through the panels and Leora's crystal form. Ethan sometimes paused to watch the colors shift, feeling a profound sense of connection with something larger than himself. Mara often joined him, her presence comforting and grounding as they worked side by side. Then, one evening, the sentinel appeared in full. Its energy form expanded, filling the clearing outside the cabin with a soft, shimmering light. Ethan and Mara watched in awe as it moved with purpose, revealing its full structure, majestic, complex, and intelligent beyond comprehension. "It recognizes you," Leora said. "You have proven worthy. It will now share knowledge with you directly." Ethan felt a surge of energy as the sentinel's presence connected with him. Information flowed into his mind, not overwhelming, but clear, structured, and precise. He understood the forest's history, the purpose of the devices, and the role humans could play. The network was not just a forest, it was a living system designed to teach, protect, and sustain life. Mara watched him, sensing the transformation. "Ethan, what's happening?" she asked softly. "I understand now," he said, his voice filled with wonder. "This is bigger than any technology, bigger than anything humans have created. It's alive, intelligent, and it's teaching us. We're part of it, part of its balance." For hours, Ethan absorbed knowledge guided by Leora and the sentinel. He learned how energy flowed not just through trees and animals, but through the land, water, and sky. He learned how subtle adjustments could prevent disaster, restore health, and enhance growth. He understood that humans, when acting responsibly, could become partners in maintaining balance, not destroyers of it. When the night finally ended and dawn broke over the forest, Ethan felt a sense of completion. The unknown presence, the sentinel and Leora, had revealed themselves fully, and he now carried their trust and responsibility. He knew that his life had changed forever. Mara stood beside him on the porch of the cabin, watching the sunrise. "You've done something incredible here, Ethan," she said. "Not just for the forest, but for all of us." Ethan smiled. "I didn't do it alone. Leora guided me, the sentinel showed the way, and the forest. It taught me patience and care. We're all connected. That's what I've learned. Mara nodded, a quiet determination in her eyes. Then we'll continue. Together, we'll protect it and learn from it. And maybe teach others what we've discovered. Ethan looked at the forest alive with the morning light. Birds sang, streams glimmered, and the subtle hum of energy flowed through every living thing. He felt a profound sense of peace and purpose. The cabin in the woods, which had started as a simple retreat, had become a place of wonder, learning, and responsibility. He turned back to Mara, smiling. "This is just the beginning," he said. "The forest, Leora, the sentinel, they've given us a gift, and it's our responsibility to honor it." Together, they watched as the forest pulsed with life, energy flowing like veins through the land. Ethan felt connected, not only to the place but to the universe in a way he had never experienced. He understood that curiosity, courage, and empathy were the keys to unlocking potential, not just for humans, but for all living things. In the days that followed, Ethan continued to explore, guide, and protect the forest. He learned to refine his understanding of energy flows, communicate more effectively with the sentinel, and apply his knowledge to benefit life in the area. Mara became an essential partner, her insight and care complementing Ethan's technical understanding. The cabin was no longer just a home, it was a sanctuary, a center of learning and a beacon of harmony between humans and nature. And Ethan, once a man seeking solitude, had found a purpose that gave meaning to every action, every decision, and every breath he took. As the sun set over the forest, Ethan stood on the porch watching the light dance across the trees. Leora's glow pulsed beneath the cabin, the sentinel shimmered at the edge of the clearing, and the forest itself seemed to breathe with life. He smiled, knowing that he had found his place, his purpose, and his connection to something far greater than himself. And in that moment, Ethan realized that the true discovery was not the cabin, the forest, or even Leora. It was understanding the value of connection, responsibility, and the endless possibilities that awaited those who dared to explore, learn, and care. The journey had begun with a lonely cabin in the woods, but it had led to a discovery that would change everything, for him, for Mara, and perhaps one day for all of humanity.